Well, welcome to Ozette Lake. Just starting my 5-day photography trip here on the lake. I'm going to explore the lake. This is the first time I've really done any kind of long trips on this lake, so lots to discover. Here's a closer look at the map, Ozette Lake. I launched from Swan Bay and I'm now paddling out towards Garden Island. And then I'm just going to paddle on down the shore to Tivoli Island. It's about 5 miles. Probably camp there, but I could continue on another mile to Birkstall Point. But yeah, the idea for this trip is just to spend 5 days, 4 nights down here in this area, just checking out this whole area down here, getting to know that area, looking for wildlife. Possibly I might take this Allen's Creek Trail out to the Pacific Ocean. The trail has not been maintained in probably 15-20 years. So it's probably pretty overgrown or maybe even gone by now. So anyway, that's the plan. Well, I made it to Tivoli Island and scouted it out. Some really nice campsites there. But being an island a mile offshore, I just don't think it's going to have much wildlife other than birds. So I've decided to go ahead and paddle over to another mile to Birkstall Point. Yeah, Tivoli has I think what are probably a couple of good landscape shots with some like really cool trees, fallen trees right along the lake shore, and a lot of grasses and reeds in the water. I think it'd be a great shot at sunrise. So what I might do is just paddle back over here tomorrow morning or another morning. Well, I'm back on Tivoli Island. I went out to Birkstall Point, and while the campsite's real nice there, it is up against the woods, and the woods are really thick, impenetrable in fact. And that what that means is that a lot of the previous campers have kind of pooed right near camp, and it's, I don't know, not a very pleasant place. So I decided to come back here to Tivoli and got a nice campsite here. Really like it. Yeah, I just got my first photo in. Let me show it to you. So what we have here is this log that's fallen out into the lake here, and in the foreground there's this foam with the pebbles, also these yellow fall colored leaves. So anyway, I framed up a shot with the leaves and the rocks in the foreground, along with the log, and then all the way off into the distance. I'm using a 10-stop neutral density filter to give me really long exposures to help smooth out the water. Good morning. Day 2. There's some really nice landscape photos over on the east side of the island. I was hoping to shoot this morning, but I got up early and the sky is totally socked in. So given that there wasn't going to be any morning light, kind of slept in a little bit. So today my plan is to
paddle out to Allen's Bay and all the other bays and points, including South Bay down there, and just scout for landscapes, scout for wildlife. There's a buck along the shore right over here. This tells you something about photographing from a kayak. I don't think this deer is expecting any kind of threat from the water. Probably hears my voice and assumes I'm approaching by land and is trying to find me, even though I'm only 20 yards away from it. This looks like the takeout for the Allen Creek Trail. This is the 2-mile-long trail that runs from Lake Ozette out to the Pacific Ocean. Supposedly it's pretty well overgrown, hasn't been maintained in like 20 years or something like that, so I'm going to check it out. Good opportunity to stretch the legs. Well, I've decided to go for it. Got my cameras, my food, because I can't leave my food behind, and headlamp just in case, and off we go. Well, it didn't go. The trail sort of became like a tunnel of brush, only about like 2.5 feet tall. So it became like a lot of crawling. I think if you want to crawl a lot, it probably goes through. I don't know. I think I probably only got about half a mile, if that. Anyway, not for today. So a pretty good day today. This morning I paddled from Tivoli Island out to Cemetery Point. And then there's a cemetery, there's supposed to be a cemetery here. I got out and scouted for that, couldn't find anything. I'm pretty sure it's pretty well overgrown. Anyway, paddled along down into Allen Bay. Here's where I saw that deer. And then tried to do the Allen's Creek Trail out to the ocean, but only got about maybe 1/3 of a mile. Anyway, then paddled around the whole south end of the lake. Saw loons in Allen's Bay, saw a loon here, saw loons in the south end. As far as wildlife goes, the main thing I saw was just a lot of these belted kingfishers. The lake has a lot of these overhanging snags, these trees that fall down from on the shoreline and overhang the lake. Perfect habitat for the belted kingfisher. Saw, I don't know, at least a dozen, probably, or maybe 2 dozen kingfisher. So I just checked the radio and got a weather report. Tomorrow's supposed to be mostly cloudy in the morning, turning to rain. So probably what I'll do tomorrow is kayak out towards Ericson's Bay and then hike the trail out to the ocean. It's about a 2-mile hike. I think that's the thing to do tomorrow. If it's going to be cloudy and raining, I think being in a big deep forest would be the place to be, doing some landscape photography in there. So it's a great evening today, so I think I'm just going to sit here and drink a beer and have dinner. Sky is almost 100% clear and I got a quarter moon, so I think I'm going to do some more astrophotography tonight. That's the plan. I'm hiking the Ericson's Bay trail out from Lake Ozette out to the Pacific Ocean. It's raining lightly and the light's real soft, so the forest here is pretty confused and dense, you know, just the amount of undergrowth. So, but there are some really nice big cedar trees in here, really beautiful. Decided to wear my neoprene booties from the kayak because the bits of boardwalk that are left on this trail are pretty slippery, and the neoprene booties give a lot better traction than regular hiking boots on these boardwalks. Well, I think I have managed to find an interesting scene. It's a big old cedar tree with nice green ferns, sword fern at the bottom, and I really like the arc of this this little dead shrub, whatever that is. I'm not sure. I think it's also cedar. And so what I've done is I've framed it tightly like this, just using that arc, the arc of that tree to contrast with the vertical lines of the cedar. And then that nice field of green sword fern down below. So a little worried about the brightness of the 2 corners, the upper right and the upper left, but I could potentially deal with that in post-processing. So I'm shooting this at ISO 400 because there's a little bit of a breeze, and I'm already at 1 second exposure, f/16. So detail in the cedar looks good. Ferns are in focus. What I'll probably do is shoot just a couple more in case one of the ferns was moving during the exposure. But so actually these all look pretty good. Oh, there's a little bit of motion right in here. So in these real dense forests, sometimes I'm looking for these, you know, tight compositions, a little more intimate type landscapes. Just to deal with the busyness of the forest. They're really distilling things down to just 3 elements: the cedar, the arcing branch, and then the ferns in the foreground. So anyway, pretty pleased with that shot. quite liking this scene too. Some sort of getting a little bit of foggy mistiness to the air, and that kind of helps to make the trees stand out. So I've framed this with the trail in the foreground. You can see the composition on the back of the camera here. Yeah, shooting f13 1 second and ISO 400. I have also focus bracketed. I've got about 3 shots here to stack together to get everything in focus. Yeah, I'm back in camp now. I got out to the ocean and it was just windy and rainy, so it didn't really stay around there very long. I did manage to get 1 shot off of the beach grass and the driftwood along the beach, but yeah, so then I hiked back through the woods back to Lake Ozette and found the wind had spooled up. It was probably blowing about 20 miles an hour. So I paddled back to Tivoli Island, about 4 miles against the wind, and made it back. And so the tent is just a wreck. I got stuff laying out all over the place, drying out. It's 4:20 now. I think I'm just going to go out and make some dinner here pretty soon and try to get this stuff organized, and that'll probably be the rest of my day. Good morning. I'm paddling to the southwest side of the island here, Tivoli Island, and saw a composition here when I first arrived. And the sun is just beginning to rise, and I thought it'd make a nice sunrise composition, so I'm heading there now. So this tree here is kind of one of the things that caught my attention. I just like the overall shape to it, and these grasses in the foreground I think are going to light up real nice when the sun comes grazing across. So I think there's definitely a shot here. Sun's off to the right in this view. I think that can work. And I think there's also a shot looking south like that, maybe with Baby Island kind of nestled in the curve. There's Baby Island right there, sort of nestled in the curve of the tree. This branch in the foreground could make an interesting element with the curvy trees in silhouette and Baby Island off in the distance. So there's another possibility. I think there's probably 2 or 3 good compositions here. Sun should be popping up above the clouds here in just a few minutes, so I guess I better get set up. One of the compositional aids I use sometimes is an old slide film, It's just an empty slide frame. I carry this around to figure out how to frame my subject. Not in front of a little blogging camera like this, but yeah, what I'll do is I'll hold it up to my eye, and it gives me the right proportions to frame the scene. So I don't have to necessarily use my camera, especially if I'm uncertain about what lens I want to use. I can use this to kind of check the options quickly. And by the way, the distance between my eye and the frame is the focal length of the lens for full frame cameras. So if I hold this up and I get a decent feeling of that's probably about a 24 millimeter to 30 millimeter shot. So anyway, it's just a little trick I sometimes use. I just walk around with this in my pocket and I can whip it out and check out different scenes like this. It's just one method I use sometimes. So yeah, I am definitely liking this shot here. Here comes the sun now over the horizon, so I'm gonna get set up. Okay, here's the first frame I've set up here. Anyway, you get the basic idea. I just got this a pretty simple composition. I got the whole tree capture in the frame, slightly biased to the left-hand side. So there's a little bit of open space on the right hand side where the sun rises. I'm shooting this at ISO 100, 1/20th of a second, f11. And I also, that's my base exposure. I also took some exposures, 1 stop brighter and 2 stops brighter, so I can get a little more brightness in the foreground grasses. So I'm set up on the next shot here. Again, I've got the tree, the curvy tree, and this branch in the foreground. I love the tree at this angle. I have a little bit of separation issue with the bush on the right. Just a little bit of the leaves are coming into the frame on the right hand side. I can just edit those out in Photoshop. But I really love the tree, the grasses, and this branch in the foreground. I think I might lower my composition just a little bit so that baby island is not blocked by some of the leaves on the tree. But I better get to it. There's a little bit of a breeze stirring up, so.
Sky is totally clear. Sun's going down in probably about 40 minutes. On my second day, when I was paddling around the lake, I spotted on the far shore, about a mile across there, a potentially good scene for some star trails shots. So I'm going to paddle over there tonight and do some star trail photography. There's about a 60% moon right over there right now, so that'll be nice because it'll illuminate my way back. So, all right, I better get packed and get over there.
So I've paddled across the channel, and yeah, and this is what I was looking for. There's this really cool fallen cedar. I think this is one of those, candelabra type cedars that has many of the vertical forks, but it's fallen down to the lake, and kind of cool. You can frame Tivoli Island, and so I'm doing some long exposures now, just kind of looking down the tree here out into the lake, and then when it gets darker, I'll do some star photography. So. The fifth day of my trip was calm with blue skies. I paddled the 6 miles back to the car at Swans Bay, checking out Boot Bay, Crooked Creek, and Big River on the way back. Overall, I paddled 35 miles by sea kayak, covering a good portion of the lake. And I also came away with some new photos that I'm pretty happy with. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you again on our next adventure.